The story kicks off in a gloomy castle on a starry, mysterious night. Inside, a young man steps into a magic circle, thinking about the souls he's stolen. Because of this, he's reminded of all the innocent people who had to pass on. With one hand, the young man starts gathering a massive amount of energy. Despite everything, he states with absolute certainty that he has no regrets. From there, the guy says he became a monster just to bring someone back. The scene then shifts to a golden scale representing karma. According to this law, the more good things you do, the more fate rewards you. This way, a person can achieve a happy life with money and even a path to the heavens. But one young man doesn't seem to buy it and thinks something is off. The image shatters like a mirror as he thinks that no matter what he does, it seems like the universe is just always against him all the time. Faced with the situation, the mage from the beginning appears to be going through an internal conflict. Changing scenes, we meet a guy walking down the street named Park Seo-jun. Our main character is 25 years old and has dedicated his entire life to doing good. Starting with a flashback, we see our MC climbing a tree to get his friend's ball. From up there, he smiles and lets the crew know he's recovered the lost object. With that, the young man throws the ball back down so they can get on with their soccer game. One of the boys catches the ball and thanks Park Seo-jun for the favor. But in their rush to get back to playing, one of them accidentally kicks and knocks over the ladder. Because of this, our guy gets stuck in the tree all alone and is left behind. Realizing he has no other choice, the kid decides he's going to have to jump from up there. So, he musters up his courage and leaps from the tree, trying to land safely. But unfortunately, he ends up landing awkwardly and badly twists his ankle. Crying in pain on the ground, he laments that this just isn't fair. And to make matters worse, the ball comes flying back and smacks the poor guy right in the face. Back in the present, the guy continues his habit of always trying to do the right thing. Walking down the school hallway, he finds a pink ribbon lying on the floor. The young man picks up the ribbon and decides to take it to the lost and found. But just then, one of his classmates calls out to him. A group of bullies shows up, and the leader asks what he's doing with the ribbon. Our protagonist panics and tries to deny the accusation, but with no success. At that moment, a few girls walk out of the restroom, and the bully accuses him of spying on them. The girls look at him with disgust and call him a creep, leaving the guy completely desperate. From there, the big guy grabs him by the collar and says he hates perverts like him. With that, the poor soul gets beat up for no reason while thinking this is the story of his life. Back in the present, he reflects that even after all these years, nothing in his life has changed. Walking down the street, a homeless man approaches and asks him for some spare change. Despite everything, our protagonist stops and starts searching his pockets for some money. He finds his last few coins and realizes it's all he has until the end of the month. Even so, the guy decides to help and gives the money to the man in need. But the man looks at the money with contempt and asks if that's all he's going to give. Park Seo-jun is speechless and tries to apologize for the small amount. But out of nowhere, a bird decides to do its business right on top of his head. The homeless man even mocks him, while our protagonist thinks that none of this makes any sense. With his head dirty, he laments that it feels like the entire universe is conspiring against him. Despite this, The guy cleans his hair and decides he's not going to let it get him down. With a determined expression, our protagonist affirms that he won't be shaken. After all, he believes that sooner or later, the wheel of fortune has to turn in his favor, and it seems like luck has finally smiled upon him as the crosswalk signal turns green. At that moment, a friendly old lady approaches and asks for his help to cross the street. Our protagonist promptly accepts and offers his arm for the elderly woman to lean on, and so the two begin to carefully walk across the crosswalk together. With that, he guides her safely to the other side of the sidewalk without any trouble. As he says goodbye and wishes her a good day, the little old lady stays silent with a strange look on her face. All of a sudden, the lady starts screaming desperately for help, faking an attack. The people around them watch the scene, confused and shocked by the old woman's outburst. She hysterically screams that he's grabbing her, sending the guy into a full-blown panic. The crowd glares at him with disgust, and someone yells to call the police immediately. Completely terrified, he tries to explain that he was just helping the lady cross the street. Seeing he has no choice, Park Seo, Jun takes off running, shouting that he didn't do anything wrong. After running for a while, he stops in an alley, panting, to catch his breath. Reaching a sad conclusion, the guy realizes that all of this can only be a curse. As he's lamenting, a flower pot falls from a building and heads straight for him. The object flies toward him, and all he can think is that he just wanted to do good. A moment later, the pot smashes right on his head, shattering into a million pieces. Lying on the ground and bleeding, our protagonist is confused and doesn't understand what just happened. In immense pain, he calls for help from anyone who might be listening as footsteps approach. As luck would have it, the crazy old lady has found him and calls him a pervert with a terrifying look in her eyes. Fallen and powerless, the young man begs for help, but the elderly woman raises her cane to strike him. She mercilessly beats him over and over while the guy curses his terrible fate. In his final moments of consciousness, he sees the woman relentlessly wailing on him with her cane. And just like that, his life ends, and all he can think is that his only wish was to help others. Feeling one last pang of pain, his vision slowly begins to fade to black. Suddenly, he finds himself in a dark place and wonders if he's finally moved on to a better place. All of a sudden, a bright, golden light appears right in front of him, taking him by surprise. Our protagonist is confused by the brightness and wonders what's going on. He can hardly believe what his eyes are seeing in that moment of confusion, for before him appears an angel with bright, white wings, who greets him by name. The celestial being introduces himself as the Archangel Gabriel and looks at him with a smile. The angel explains that he has come to guide him to his next destination, which is eternal salvation. But to the guy's shock, the salvation he's referring to is the dreaded underworld. Not understanding a thing, the young man clutches his chest and tries to process this insane information. Kneeling on the ground, he says he tried to do good his entire life without fail. Gabriel seems thoughtful about the young man's statement and is silent for a moment. The Archangel agrees that it's true and that the numbers really don't add up at all. Because of this, he decides to check it right now and summons the scale of karma to put it to the test. Our protagonist looks at the golden scale, not understanding what's happening there. A moment later, he's forcefully pulled onto the pan of evil, which glows a bright, vivid red. The angel realizes there's a flaw in the system and calls out to Park Seo-jun with a serious look. With that, Gabriel reveals the shocking news that our protagonist's karma is inverted. The angel then confirms and explains that every single living creature has its own karma. Normally, the more good a person does, the more positive the energy around them becomes. But in this guy's case, it's the complete opposite, and his good deeds generated negative karma and bad luck. Flying through the skies, the celestial creature says that because he did so many good things, his karma is abysmal, even worse than that of a certain German dictator, leaving the young man in a complete state of shock. Faced with the situation, the guy falls into despair and grabs his head, unable to believe what he just heard. Thus, he realizes that because of this, he will receive the ultimate punishment in the afterlife. The angel confirms that the underworld awaits him with an eternity of suffering and great pain. But Gabriel smiles and tells him not to worry, as he's not in the habit of abandoning his subjects. From there, he states that he will find a solution and begins to use his divine powers. Countless planets and universes appear before them, and the angel explains that these are all the existing worlds. But unfortunately, he can't send him back to Earth because there's no magic or resurrection there. Therefore, he'll have to send him somewhere else and starts searching for a world that resembles his own. Finally, he finds the perfect place and shows a castle inside a sphere of golden light. Gabriel explains that this is a world with multidimensional magic, a very different kind of place. He points to a fallen mage who tried to use a forbidden spell, and now his soul is long gone. Given the situation, the angel reveals that our protagonist will take the place of that empty body. The divine creature calms him down and says he'll give him a gift to compensate for his inverted karma. At that moment, a notification sound echoes, and a blue screen pops up in front of Park Seo-jun. The screen displays the Supreme Karma system, where every good deed is worth 100 temporary luck points. A moment later, a new quest appears on his screen, telling him to find the White Mage. Our protagonist is confused by the quest and asks what exactly he needs to do. Gabriel admits he knows nothing and has no control over the events of the universe. The Archangel just smiles and wishes him good luck, saying that this time, luck will be on his side. With a final gesture, the angel offers his deepest apologies on behalf of all of heaven. From there, Park Seo-jun is pulled into a portal of light while screaming in fright. He travels through space, falling towards the new world at an incredible speed. Suddenly, he wakes up startled in the mage's body, with a tear streaming down his face. Kneeling inside the magic circle, the young man looks around, not understanding where he's ended up. Impressed, he realizes he's truly been given a second chance to start over. Now, our protagonist just needs to find the White Mage to get back to Earth. And so, he gets up and starts walking towards a large door. On the way, the guy stops in front of a mirror to take a look at his new face. He checks himself out and thinks he doesn't look half bad with this noble appearance. With a mischievous grin, he jokes, wondering what kind of evil hides behind that face. Suddenly, the earring on his ear begins to glow intensely with a red light. Ignoring the glow, he approaches the hall's exit to see what awaits him outside. Park Seo-jun takes a few confident steps and prepares to leave the dark place. But as he steps out, his eyes go wide, completely shocked by the scene before him. A crowd of creatures shouts in unison, "Long live the Dark Mage," leaving him utterly confused. The guy panics as he realizes he's surrounded by all sorts of monsters. Just then, a goblin appears on his shoulder and reminds him not to forget his cape for the troops. The creature announces to the crowd that they should welcome the most powerful warrior. This is the only man who has never done a single good deed, known for his terrible atrocities. The goblin introduces him as the Great Dark Mage and the embodiment of all evil. With that, the crowd of monsters goes wild, chanting the Dark Mage's name. Our protagonist is speechless, breaking out in a cold sweat over the whole bizarre situation. Faced with the situation, he runs back inside and slams the door with all his might. Leaning against the door, the guy tries to catch his breath, completely terrified by it all. He can hardly believe there's an army of demons on the other side of that door. Realizing the danger, the young man decides he needs to figure out a way to escape this place. But out of nowhere, the goblin appears behind him and asks if his master is feeling all right. The poor guy turns around, startled, and asks who the heck this green creature is. The little monster introduces himself as Grut, his new advisor, appointed just yesterday. Trying to hide his panic, Park Seo, June asks why there are so many monsters outside. Grut replies with a smile that it was the Dark Mage himself who summoned them there. The creature adds that he believes his intention is to attack the nearby villages. Completely horrified, our protagonist yells at him to call everything off immediately. The goblin is confused, says he thought this was exactly what his master wanted. Grut gets nervous and swallows hard, realizing his master isn't kidding around. Seeing he has no other choice, the goblin snaps his fingers to take drastic action. With that, the creature's body is engulfed in flames, leaving our protagonist in shock. Desperate, the young man shouts that the advisor has set himself on fire and tries to help him. He quickly casts a water spell to extinguish the flames on the little monster. Despite putting out the fire, Grit remains terrified by the whole situation. At that moment, the system notifies him that the supreme karma has been activated by his good deed, but to his surprise, Grut kneels and begs the Dark Mage to let him go. The creature says he made a mistake and doesn't want to meet the same fate as the other advisors. Crying, he reveals that their souls still echo throughout the gloomy castle. Park Seo, June doesn't understand a thing and asks the goblin to explain this story better. With a trembling hand, the small green monster points to a specific room in the place. Our protagonist turns his head in the indicated direction, still having no idea what he's about to see. There, he's faced with a terrible scene of several goblins who met a tragic end. Shocked by the sight, the guy realizes that the former owner of this body was a monster. Looking at that horrific scene, our protagonist asks what they did to deserve this. The signs reveal that one was punished for being late, another for trying to escape, and the last for stuttering. With his eyes wide with horror, the guy realizes the cruelty of the body's previous owner. From that point on, he understands that he is now the real monster of the whole story. A moment later, he turns and calls for Grunt, who is trembling in fear in the corner of the room. The guy tries to calm the creature down and assures him that he won't hurt him in any way. And so, our protagonist names him his advisor for life, leaving the goblin surprised. Grut gets all emotional at the news and thanks his master for the opportunity. The young man then asks him to answer a few questions, and the first is who he is. The creature butters him up, saying he is the greatest dark mage in the universe, and the guy asks for his name. The little monster confirms his name is just Dark Mage, and the young man asks where they are. Grut smiles, thinking this is all just a test to assess his knowledge as an advisor. He explains that this is his castle, a fortress that commands the southern lands and serves as his headquarters. Our protagonist reflects that not only did he reincarnate as a psycho, but he now has a kingdom of demons. Because of this, he asks Grut how long he has been ruling these southern lands. The creature gets all confused and starts doing some crazy calculations in his head to answer. After much thought, he finally guesses that the Dark Mage has been ruling for 40 minutes. Our protagonist loses it at the answer, and Grut corrects himself, saying 40 billion years. Seeing his boss's reaction, the goblin starts shaking in his boots, thinking he's made a fatal mistake. From there, he pulls out a dagger and prepares to take his own life to avoid punishment. The guy gets desperate and yells, seeing that the little creature is about to do something stupid again. Without a second thought, he grabs the advisor's hand, preventing the imminent tragedy. As the dagger falls, the supreme karma system activates once again for the good deed. With that, our protagonist orders Grut to stop this madness and stay alive. He bluffs and threatens to give the goblin the worst possible end if he ever tries anything again. Poor Grut gulps, and it seems the threat worked perfectly on him. Letting out a sigh of relief, the young man decides he needs to focus on his real mission. He can't forget that his main objective is to find this so-called white mage. With a serious face, he decides he needs to find this guy as quickly as possible. After all, even with the bad life he had, he desperately needs to get back to Earth. The reason for all this is that whenever something bad happened, his mother was there to support him. With teary eyes, he remembers that she was always by his side to comfort him. A single tear rolls down his face, just thinking about all the affection he received. From there, he recalls her tending to his scrapes after a soccer game, and also how his mother defended him tooth and nail from the school bullies. Because of this, he will do anything to get back to the best person he has ever known. Back in the present, our protagonist asks if Grut can see the blue mission screen. With the goblin's negative response, he realizes that this system is exclusive to him. So, the young man gets straight to the point and asks his advisor who the white mage is. But just hearing the name makes the little goblin start to tremble and break out in a cold sweat. The tension is so thick that even the animals in the castle are terrified by the situation. The creature grinds his teeth with an expression of pure hatred on his face at that moment. With that, Grut explodes and says he will bring the head of that scumbag to his master. The guy thanks him a bit awkwardly and asks what kind of magic this mysterious man uses. Grut explains that he masters multidimensional magic and creates portals to other worlds. The little monster reveals that the white mage has already gotten rid of thousands of them, as if it were nothing. Our protagonist quickly understands that this multidimensional magic is his ticket back home. With that in mind, he decides to see if he can use this power himself and opens his skills screen. But the system informs him that the magics are incompatible and he realizes he'll have to ask the white mage for help. The guy then asks Grit about seeking help, but the goblin reminds him that they are arch-nemesis. Our protagonist agrees with the logic, but remembers the special ability the angel gave him before he left. The system screen shows that every good deed he performs grants him 100 temporary luck points. Right after, the description says that the more luck points he has, the higher the chance of getting what he wants. With a confident smile, he concludes that he just needs to do good deeds to obtain the magic he so desires. He even says he already has 200 points for saving Grut twice and decides to check his current status. But to his surprise, when he opens the skills screen, he sees that his luck attribute is completely zeroed out. Faced with this, our protagonist is confused and wonders if this is some kind of system bug. To be sure, he clicks on his luck to see more details about that specific attribute. Upon reading the information that appears on the screen, his eyes go wide, completely shocked by the revelation. The screen shows that his current karma is cursed for all eternity because of his evil deeds. The system also warns that his luck is locked, and no points can be gained because of the curse. As he despairs, not knowing what to do, a new system notification appears right in front of him. Our protagonist is surprised and wonders if what he's seeing is a new quest for him to complete. The quest tells him to break the curse by performing a truly good deed to unlock his luck. With that, the two leave the castle wearing hoods, so as not to be recognized by anyone at all. Walking along the path, our protagonist thinks that his current luck level is completely locked. Because of this, he understands that he first needs to find a way to get rid of that terrible curse. The guy wonders what would constitute a good deed, as he has no idea what he can do now. Apparently, saving Groat's life twice wasn't enough to break that curse. The scene changes to a public execution where a man is about to meet a tragic end at the guillotine. Seeing this, the young man shouts with all his might, telling them to stop this madness immediately. Faced with the situation, he cancels the execution and orders everyone there to release the man without question. The crowd of monsters is outraged and wonders if this is really the dark mage they know. But Grut understands everything and says that by releasing a murderer, he will commit many more crimes out there. Our protagonist is terrified by the revelation and tries to stop his advisor, but it's too late. To his horror, the man's blood splatters on his face, leaving him completely paralyzed. The freed prisoner begins a massacre, and the system notifies him of an evil deed he has committed. Realizing he can't count on luck, he decides to find another way to get the magic. After all, he desperately needs to let his mother know that he is still alive and well. At that moment, Grut turns to his master with an expression of pure worry on his face. The little goblin says he doesn't feel confident about infiltrating the Western lands at all. The creature also warns him that the soldiers could attack them at any moment, but our protagonist tells Grut that they have no choice but to keep moving forward. The sooner they get there, the sooner they can return to the castle in total safety. So, the young man asks if the so-called banished mage really lives in that small village. The small green monster promptly confirms the information for his master without hesitation. He explains that the mages of the Immaculate Order master multidimensional magic and are led by the white mage. The creature says the disciples won't help and the best chance is to bribe a mage banished from the order. Our protagonist asks if this mage named Tyrion will accept the deal, and Grut says yes. The advisor reveals that his nickname is Tyrion the Greedy, and he was expelled for using magic for entertainment. It turns out he used his magic to entertain people and received good payment in return. Seeing that things are finally working out, our protagonist smiles, holding a bag of coins. After all, the old dark mage was filthy rich, and he can use that to his advantage now. From there, the two head towards the village to find the banished mage from the order. Arriving there, they find a little boy sitting alone in the corner of a dark alley. Grut immediately warns his master that there's a human all alone and completely defenseless over there. With that, the goblin pulls out a dagger and tells the boy not to move, or things will get ugly. But our protagonist stops him and says he actually has a much better idea. The young man approaches and asks why he's begging alone and where his parents are. The boy replies that his father owes the mage a lot of money, and he needs to help him pay it off. Our protagonist immediately gets it and asks if the mage in question is Tyrion the Greedy. With a nod, the little boy confirms the guy's suspicion without saying a single word. So, he asks where he can find him, and the boy says the whole village goes to the tavern to see the show. The young man then turns to his advisor and says they need to head over there right now. But Groot gets it all wrong and offers to chop the boy into pieces for his master to eat. Ignoring the green creature, our protagonist kneels in front of the little boy with a plan. With that, he gives a gold coin to the boy, and the system notifies him of a good deed. The little boy can hardly believe what he's seeing and is mesmerized by the shiny coin. But as expected, that wasn't enough to break the terrible curse that haunts him. Grut gets desperate and asks what his master is thinking, giving gold to a human. Our protagonist agrees it's not enough and gives the entire bag of coins to the boy. Faced with the situation, the little creature simply freaks out and can't believe any of it. Even after all that, his luck remains locked while Grut is shocked by the scene. The little goblin doesn't understand how the Scourge of the Four Continents could perform a good deed. The little boy is speechless and, with a smile on his face, calls him his great hero. From there, Grut finally seems to have understood his master's grand plan. He thinks the Dark Mage saw a successor in that boy to spread terror throughout the world. The goblin even imagines the boy becoming a terrible villain and ruling the southern lands. Our protagonist calls him to leave, and the advisor gets all excited about the idea. Changing scenes, we see someone drinking in a noisy tavern full of people. A waitress works cheerfully while the tavern is completely packed with people drinking. Arriving at the place, our protagonist says he can't find this Tyrion anywhere. Suddenly, he realizes that something strange is about to happen in that noisy place. A bright light illuminates the stage, and the crowd goes wild as the show they've been waiting for begins. Seeing this, Grut warns him to be careful, as that is the so-called multidimensional magic in action. The magic shows a romantic scene of two aliens saying goodbye on the shore of a starry lake. One of the creatures says it has to leave and will only be gone for a few mere light years. Before parting, the alien tears off one of its own tentacles as a farewell gift. The other creature receives the gift with a flushed face, moved by the gesture of love. With the tentacle in hand, The alien opens its mouth to say something, but the scene is interrupted. Out of nowhere, the light goes out, and all that can be seen is a glowing cross in the darkness of the tavern. A megaphone announces to everyone that the show's transmission is over, leaving the crowd frustrated. The audience complains that the story stopped right at the best part, as a notice appears for everyone. To continue the show, someone needs to insert a gold coin, and a man gets irritated by this. Angrily, he turns to a white-haired guy and says it's his turn to foot the bill. The white-haired man turns and complains that he's already spent all his cash on the show. Faced with the situation, he yells for them to pay up already because he wants to know how the story ends. Seeing the opportunity, our protagonist approaches and puts a gold coin in the machine. He then turns the knob to reactivate the magic and continue the show. The machine confirms the credit, and Park Seo-joon realizes he can use this to his advantage. The screen lights up, and a voice tells him to place his hand there and think about what he wants to see. Without wasting time, the guy touches his hand to the magic screen to test the device. He understands that it works like a remote control and decides to do a search. Because of this, the crowd in the tavern goes wild, celebrating that the show is coming back. But our protagonist couldn't care less about the entertainment and has another plan in mind. Focusing his thoughts, he manages to change the image and visualizes planet Earth from space. With that, the guy concentrates and thinks with all his might of his dear mother. And to his surprise, the image changes and shows his mother walking alone in the rain. Seeing her with a sad expression, he is shocked and shouts her name. Desperate, he bangs on the screen and yells that he's there, but everyone thinks he's a crazy drunk with his eyes full of tears. He can't believe he's seeing his mother. The image shows his mother walking alone on the street as he whispers her name. A couple of neighbors greet her and call her Mrs. Kim with a smile. She responds with a weak voice and a tired look of someone who has suffered a lot. The couple comments that it's been a month since her son passed away from this world. They also say that the poor woman still hasn't been able to get over the loss of her son. The scene changes, and now we see his mother driving her car through the city streets. In the passenger seat, a single white tulip represents all her grief. Her blue car continues on its way as the rain keeps falling relentlessly. Soon after, she arrives at a memorial and stands in front of an altar of flowers. The portrait on the altar shows the smiling face of our protagonist in his past life. His mother looks at the photo with an expression of deep sadness and longing. With a delicate gesture, she places the white tulip on the altar as a final tribute. After saying her goodbyes, the woman turns and opens the door to leave the place. She walks for a few moments, but suddenly stops as if remembering something. With a melancholic look, she turns back as if she's remembered something from the past. Suddenly, the woman collapses to the ground in tears, remembering her son with great pain. The rain begins to fall from the gray sky as she remains there, kneeling on the sidewalk. With her face covered in tears, she whispers the name of her beloved son, Park Seo-joon. The woman says she can't take this situation anymore, and that she misses him so much. She screams that she can't live without him, and the scene cuts back to the tavern with a surprised man. Seeing this, everyone in the bar starts to cry, finding the whole story incredibly sad. Even the little goblin Grud is moved by the scene and lets a tear escape. Confused, he asks his master if the water in his eyes is some kind of spell. The little monster has never felt anything like this before and looks at his boss, waiting for an explanation. But when he turns, he finds our protagonist on the floor, completely devastated, with his heart in pieces. The young man can only call out his dear mother's name. Grut continues to cry, seeing his master suffering, who says he only wants one thing. Kneeling, he begs for this terrible nightmare to finally come to an end.